If I had a show coming up next week, here's what I would do.
What's the number one tip you have for exhibitors that want to improve their ROI at a trade show or convention?
On that one visit, you just made double your money back.
We got so much attention that Mike Tyson was one of the keynote speakers there for the event, and we were able to get Mike Tyson on the podcast.
That may be a $100,000 customer, $1 million customer. I think just even parts of it can maybe double or triple their return.
Tim, you've been in the trade show space for a long time. So let me ask you, what's the number one tip you have for exhibitors that want to improve their ROI at a trade show or convention?
I would say think a few months before the show and start pre-planning. Because you can definitely attract a lot of attendees to plan on coming to your booth rather than just casually drop by if you pre-plan and maybe do some pre-show marketing to them.
So what does that look like?
Typically what we do is we'll get an exhibitor list. Sometimes you have to pay for that, or you can look at your history, everybody that you've ever done business with who might be at that show. I like to send them a personalized letter. Maybe if I have 10 sales reps, I'd like for them to sit down at a table 2 or 3 months before the show, think about their top 10 customers. Maybe we'll pre-print an invitation to come by the booth. All they have to do is sign it because people's handwriting is so bad these days. And say, hey, look, we're going to physically mail out invitations to come to our booth to 100 people. That'll be the only piece of mail they get all year long from anybody exhibiting at a show, I promise you. And they're going to go, dang, they really want me to come by. And then they'll plan for it. And if there are 3 or 4 people going from the show, there's a president, a vice president, a so-and-so, and a procurement director. They go, hey, let's make sure we go by that booth first because they really want to talk to us. They reached out to us. They have something they really want to show us. I would do that. Yeah. The results are astounding.
Yeah, I was going to ask about the results. So, I mean, you see see a pretty good return on that on the mailed letter, inviting them to the booth.
Yes, because otherwise what you're doing is you're just hoping that out of the 10,000 attendees, 200 great ones are going to pop by your booth, and they might. But if they're planning on it, if they've been invited, if they say we really want to see you, we want to show you something special, we're planning on for you to come by, they're going to make a special effort to get there.
Amazing. Let me ask you this: is there a formula that companies should be using to calculate their ROI for a booth at a trade show?
Yes, and I got it wrong for so many times, Brian. I've done over 200 trade shows where I was the marketing director, and I would plan what shows we're going to go to, how big the space is going to be, where it is, the back, everything. I mean, I would work the booth the whole time, train the booth staff, everything. And I would come back from a show, and basically here's what I would do. I would say we got 200 leads at this show, and it cost us $20,000. So it cost us whatever, $100 a lead or something. That was my whole formula. That was it. And we all knew there was more to it than that. I mean, you kind of intuitively know, okay, we may have saved some clients that we were going to lose because we kind of rebuilt that relationship at the show. Lot of things. But I used that one for over 100 shows, and I'm kicking myself now. But I started adding to that. I added in there immediate sales, because you can sell at a lot of shows. Some customers or some exhibitors go, oh my God, I've never sold at a show. We can't sell at our shows. Some of them have rules against selling, but sometimes you can get around that a little bit. You can put together a special show promo, and they don't have to necessarily buy it there, but they can sign an agreement that they're going to buy it in the next 30 days after the show. So then you have the growth potential is basically the leads. You get a retention value. That's something that I kind of alluded to a second ago. Sometimes what you have to do is post-show, you tell all the reps at the show, everybody who's working the booth, if you run across a client and you have a nice conversation with them and you get any indication that they were considering leaving us, and we possibly saved it or we're on the track to save it because of some information we gathered from them, write that down. And that may be a $100,000 customer, $1 million customer, and you count that against your expenses for the show. If you saved $100,000 in net revenue per year and the show cost you $50,000, on that one visit, you just made double your money back, for example. That's something I never thought about. Then upsells, so you have the clients who, they buy your generic product, they come by, oh yeah, we love you guys, and you go, hey, wait a minute, hold on. let me show you this new one. This new one, it costs a little more, but dang, you're going to get twice the return on investment if you buy this because it increases your efficiency or whatever. So upsells, you count those. How much does that mean to your bottom line? Hey, if they're going to buy the Lexus instead of the Toyota because of what you talked to them at the show, there's a dollar amount associated with that. And then travel savings. So I used to fly all around the country and Canada, meeting with my clients were mostly advertising agencies. So, I mean, there was a lot of money. If an advertising agency in New York City wanted to see me, I would go see them. Now, I'd try to pack in a few visits or whatever, but that was going to be a $1,200, expense. If I can convince them, hey, I'm going to be at this show in 5 weeks, come, and I know you're going to be there. Let's sit down and talk at that show. I just saved $1,200. So if I could pack in 5 meetings, what does that mean? If I can pack in 10 meetings, I've saved $12,000 to my company.
Yeah.
So, and then the last expense I would say would be lead expenses because these days, if you have a marketing team, they're probably maybe doing some Google ads or something like that, and they'll come back with a number. They'll say, for a good solid lead for our company, it costs us $300 per lead. And then may go back and say, well, at trade shows, it costs us $200 per lead. So there was $100 savings per lead, quality lead that we achieved from our trade show program. So those are six of the ones that I typically use.
Yeah, I mean, I can see how there's so much more to it than just dollars spent versus, you know, uh, products sold or whatever that may be, or
Right,
leads generated. Like there's a
right,
lot of other costs there's opportunities for savings or growth.
right,
Yeah.
exactly.
All right. So give me some quick hits. What are a few pro tips? Maybe it can be with the aesthetic or the pre-planning or the follow-up or whatever. But what's something someone could implement this week that would increase the ROI at their booth?
Yeah, so what I would do if I had a show coming up next week, here's what I would do. Um, I would look on the floor plan of the show, maybe find three, four, five companies that I don't compete with, and go to them or call them ahead of time and say, listen, how about after this show's over, let's share our leads among each other. And there will probably be some duplicates, but there'll probably be a lot that aren't duplicates. And so instead of walking away with 200 leads, if I have four or five companies that we go together on all these leads, we may walk away from with 600 leads, let's say, after we dedupe a lot of them. So three times the ROI. And some people may say, well, wait a minute, some of those people didn't even come to your booth. Yeah, but you know what? They don't remember who they talked to. They were at this trade show, they were at meetings, and they were doing this continuing education stuff, and they were at breakfast and dinners and stuff, and they come back and they don't remember who they talked to. You don't even have to claim that they talked to you. Say, hey, look, we were at the show, we may have missed you, but we'd like to, let you know about this. That a lot of people were really interested in our brand new blank at this show. So sharing leads is one way. It doesn't cost you anything, and also it kind of strengthens your relationship with some, other vendors who are in the same space as you, but they aren't really competitors.
I love this idea. I've been to some really big conventions and trade shows, as I know you have as well. And there's just no way that people can get to every booth.
No.
I've been to some that are so big they don't even get to every room of every booth or
Yeah.
every room of in the convention. So,
Yeah.
what a great way to just reach more people and to your point, build relationships too. You never know what can come out of those as well. So I
Yeah.
love that as a tip.
It happened to me in Canada. We were doing 5 stops in Canada, and we were in a ballroom, and there would be 500 attendees. It was a small show, and there were maybe 20 or 30 of us exhibiting, and most of them were little 10 by 10 spaces. So I was the only one in my booth. And so I would be talking to try to talk to two people at a time, and then four or five people would come by and they couldn't hear me, and they just walked past.
Yep.
And that's where this idea I came up with this idea of there were so many people I wanted to talk to. I'm sure I didn't. Everybody in that room is interested in what I sell, so why not?
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah,
All right, so switching gears a little bit, what are
yeah.
some of the biggest challenges that exhibitors face as far as making sure they're getting an ROI, making sure that they're reaching the right audience? What are some of the things that that exhibitors struggle with?
Yeah, I would say so going to the very beginning, like making sure you do the right shows. That is a bit of a struggle and it takes some time. So I my main job is I am an exhibit consultant. I consult with companies about exhibits that they could buy or rent from my company. But we're, all of us in this space who are good at our job do more than that. We sometimes even advise our clients not to do a specific show. We're like, hey, you know what? I've got a couple other clients doing that show. I don't think it's right for you. Let's hold back on that and let's look for something better. So I would say it almost takes, unless you have a lot of industry knowledge and a lot of other exhibit managers and marketing managers from other companies you can reach out to, try to find a good exhibit manager, like somebody that does what I do to kind of talk you through some of that. Our company probably, I don't know, our clients do maybe 4 or 5 thousand shows, something like that. So,
Wow.
we can go deep to talk to all the 20 or 30 sales reps we have and say, hey, who has somebody that's done this show? What do you think? How was the response? What kind of return did you get? So, picking the right show, I think, is critical. And then once you do that, I think and again, it's a little bit of a selfish motive here, but I've seen it on my side, is you really need your exhibit to match your product. So if you're selling, a quality product, if your company is known for quality, that's what you're known for. Don't go in with a ragtag exhibit. But if you're the super low end guy, just do whatever you have to do. Just throw something up, a little pop up, and that'll probably work for you. So I would just
Yeah.
say make sure that your exhibit and your messaging and your company align.
Hey, if you're enjoying the content you're watching right now, I would invite you to check out Tim's video course. It is based on his book, The Marketer's Survival Guide, a practical how to for measuring and maximizing trade show ROI. It's a 2.5 hour course. He's going to guide you through step by step on how you can increase your ROI. So if you're getting into trade shows, you're doing them for a while and not seeing great results, you're going to want to check that out. The link is below. Yeah, I love that you guys had that kind of relationship and transparency with your clients. That can say to them, "This isn't a great exhibit for you, or convention." And I would imagine that on the flip side too, that they may be going to certain conventions, and you say, which one would be a good fit for you that may not be in your radar, but you might want to
Hmm.
look into this one. So just kind
Exactly.
of understanding what they are selling or promoting and helping them either plug into the right shows or avoid the ones that may not have a very good return on investment for them.
Yeah, yeah. And I would say, one of the biggest, I would say, mistakes I see companies make is that they don't count up all the six ways or maybe even more of getting ROI on shows. So they may really think, you know what, I'm not sure we're even getting a return on this, but if they actually calculated it the way I just described to you a second ago,
Yeah.
then they may say, wow, we're getting $5 for every $1 we spend on exhibiting. And they may not even realize it may be a show that they're looking at canceling or even canceling.
Wow.
I know a client that canceled their whole program. And I talked to their marketing director and I said, well, how are you calculating your ROI? And they weren't doing it right at all. And I'm thinking, man, you don't know. You guys may be really missing the boat on this. You may not, maybe they made the right decision, but I don't think they were.
Yeah. Amazing. Are there any hard no's that you want to do, at a with your exhibit? And I've been to a lot, and I've seen all the gimmicks, and I've seen, people trying everything they can to get people into their booth and whatnot. Is there anything that people should just avoid that you've just seen it just doesn't work?
Let me think. Well, let me think. Let me give you the real easy ones that people can control right now, and that is booth staff training.
Hmm.
That's number one. That's number one. Because if you show up and all you have is a piece of carpet and somebody awesome standing on it, they can bring people in and talk to them and sell them on your product without even having a visual. All right. And you can have the most incredible booth, $1 million booth, and the worst booth staff, and people will look inside and just walk on by. I see. So there are the basic booth staff training you have to do, and you have to remind people. And you may have killer salespeople. I mean, you may have like 10 of the best salespeople on earth, but think about it, they probably do 1 or 2 trade shows a year. And it's a different environment. They may be relationship sellers, and a trade show floor is more like a used car sales lot. You got to bring people in, you got to call them in, you got to get their attention, show them something quick, get their attention. You have about a second and a half, maybe 2 seconds to get their attention, and they make a decision to walk in your booth or walk past. And most of them walk past. So I
Wow.
think booth staff training is number one.
So the hard no is do not staff your booth with people that are not trained, don't know the environment, but don't know the product that well, or the the how the trade shows work that well. Don't bring the right energy. You really that the person matters more than the visual or whatever they're using to pull people in.
Yeah, and but I would say uh, more than half of the things you just described can be solved with a 45-minute meeting.
Yeah. Okay.
With a couple of videos, that you pull them up from YouTube about booth staff training or hire somebody to come in. We do that. My company does that sometimes for free for bigger clients. It's better to bring in an out-of-town expert, just even if you're the expert, bringing in somebody from some different company that's across town, buy them lunch and say, come here and yell at my staff and tell them not to eat in the booth.
Yeah.
Don't sit down, don't gather. I mean, there's all these things. And trade shows, here's what happens. You get a regional, the West regional manager, the East regional manager, the Midwest regional manager. They never get to spend time together, and they are pumped to compare stories and talk. And they're all standing around a counter near the back of the booth deep in a conversation, sharing some story. And somebody comes up and they kind of glance in there, and those three guys are talking, and they just keep on going.
Yeah.
So, you can have all the right people with all the right energy, but they just need a little bit of direction, and I think you can solve most of that.
That's fantastic advice. Yeah, save those conversations for the setup and breakdown, or maybe the post show dinner or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
So, what advice do you have for more non traditional companies? Like maybe it's a nonprofit or somebody that doesn't have like a conventional product to sell. What do you recommend to them?
Yeah, so basically you may just do your measurement a little differently.
Okay.
So, on the simple side, my first career was with the YMCA, and no matter what your position is with the YMCA, you're in fundraising. So, we if we're going to have an event, sometimes it wasn't a trade show, but it was a dinner. And we're there to sign people up, to help with the whatever the campaign is or whatever. So maybe you look at the number of people that actually contributed or did a pledge, what the pledges were, and those kind of things, and measure them that way. I worked with a company though too. We couldn't quite understand why they were spending so much money at exhibiting because they really didn't have a lot of people coming to their booth, but they were trying to project an image because they were developed a technology that they were preparing to sell for billions of dollars to another technology
Interesting.
company. So they
Yeah.
didn't really care so much about selling their product or whatever, but they also couldn't show up in a ragtag pop-up booth either. They needed a substantial booth. They needed to make a presence. They needed to look bigger than they were. And you know what? That 100,000 or whatever they spend on that trade show was nothing when they sold their company for $4 billion. So there can be different ways to measure. You may not be the number of booth scans and that kind of stuff. So if you're in a growth situation where you're just trying to increase your sales price, it could be a different situation.
Yeah, that's great. I love that story too. I mean, I get it. They're playing the long game, and they know what it takes to make sure that they're on the right radars and they're not selling anything in the moment. So,
Right.
so let me ask you this: does on-site media help play a role in ROI? And I know we're getting to my realm a little bit here, and I've got a couple
Yeah.
of thoughts on that. But I just wanted to get your perspective. I'm sure you've seen it at some different booths, and what have you seen work there?
Well, I'll tell you, I walk through probably 20 or 30 trade shows a year. And when I see somebody set up and they're doing podcasts or they're doing interviews in the booth with a bunch of cameras and things, there is always a buzz going on. So maybe, I don't know, maybe you can tell me your experience. I mean, I haven't done that. My clients haven't done that yet, but you
Yeah.
and I were talking. I'm gonna pitch it to one of my clients because,
Yeah.
I mean, people go, what's going on over there? They see all the lights, the cameras. They think there must be something great, going on there. So has that been your
I
experience?
mean, I think you nailed one of the biggest advantages for doing that is it really does help create buzz. We talked about how do you draw people into your booth, and at a minimal when they see the lights and the cameras and people talking, and if they do it right, sometimes they'll even do the nice chairs and really kind of set a stage. um, at a minimum, people want to know what's going on. They want to know what
Hmm.
it is. It creates some buzz. Um, and I would say some of the other things that, advantages of having that is it encourages relationships. So, we were at a convention where there was the host wanted to make sure he spoke to certain people. It's some other, some
Yeah.
other exhibitors, and having a sort of fireside chat, 3 camera setup, interview style, allowed them to kind of sit and have an uninterrupted conversation, with the added bonus that we also provided the content. He asked the other people about, their exhibit, their company, and then we provided that other company with a copy of the media, so that for them joining to talk, they made them, gave them marketing materials as well.
Right.
So you've got the sort of the wow factor, you've got the relationship factor, and then of course you've got the content, and the, when the trade show ends and it's all broken down and it's loaded back in the van and whatnot, part of the nice thing about media is it doesn't have to end there. If you've had some interviews or you've had some, footage taken, you can use that on social media and clips, or send to the people you talk to, as I mentioned before, and continue to have marketing material that was built from the trade show. And a couple other things you can do along those lines too is, you can do live social media. It's a way, especially if you're in a market where you've got customers, is, hey, we're down here, whatever the center or building is, make sure you come on by and check out our booth when you're here. Do something, do a little live video or something, and that's something that anybody can do.
Sure.
And then there's also the event recap videos. So if you want to promote yourself being at other events, you can do a little recap video that shows the products you're, presenting, the people you're talking to. It shows that there's energy. It shows that you've got a cool space. And you can, send that to people that may be considering going to other events that you'll be at.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we've seen be, the big thing. A big portion of it being the wow factor, and then just the ongoing content for marketing and whatnot. And when we talk to potential clients, those are the kind of the things we say the most is, hey, we're going to bring more people to your booth, and you're going to have marketing materials in the form of video that will be, stretch beyond the length of this, trade show. So
Yeah, I can see
yeah,
that would be the seventh way to have a good return on investment. You know, is
absolutely.
is ongoing video content,
Yeah.
that you can use forever. Yeah.
Yeah, and we had talked about this offline, but as I had mentioned, we were at a conference in Germany, and we got so much attention that Mike Tyson was one of the sort of the keynote speakers there for the event. He had a brand that he was promoting the event, so his face was on the front of this enormous convention center, and we were able to get Mike Tyson on the podcast, which was
Wow.
really cool because it just,
Yeah.
he saw that we had a professional setup, that it looked legit. And so it was just a really cool experience.
Yeah.
Fun side note: he invited us back to his hotel to continue filming.
Nice.
So
Hey,
life memory for sure.
well, let me tell you, I'll tell you something else too,
Yeah,
is I've seen this multiple times. Any sort of celebrity,
yeah,
people just line up for an autograph or whatever.
yeah.
And probably what's the easiest way to get a celebrity to come to your booth is if you have a bunch of cameras there and they're going to get a lot of exposure, as opposed to
Yes.
them just showing up in the booth and signing, 100 autographs, where it's just kind of like it doesn't live on. They might appreciate that too. Maybe easier to get somebody over to your booth.
You're 100%. And when he was in our booth, I mean, our client was the hit of the trade show. I mean, no
Yeah, I
question
imagine.
about it. So,
I imagine.
I
Yeah.
we were just there to film. I don't know what the exact return on investment was for them, but I guarantee you they had a lot of conversations that they probably wouldn't have had
Nice.
Mike Tyson not been sitting there,
Yeah.
talking to them in their booth on camera with podcast mics in their face. So
Yeah.
it was really cool. So
Fantastic.
let me ask you this,
Yes.
Tim. What triggered you to dig into the ways you measure ROI? At the beginning of this interview, you talked about people measuring the ROI wrong, and you outlined some really interesting ways that people can look at that. But was there something that made you really start thinking about this?
Yeah. Yeah. I had a specific event. I had gotten home from a trade show. I think it was a Thursday at like I got home at midnight or whatever, flew into Dallas. I really wasn't going to go in the office on Friday at all, but I dragged myself in there because I got all these leads. I got business cards in my briefcase and all this stuff, and I was kind of unloaded and kind of got settled in, returned a few emails, and some joker called a meeting at 3 o'clock in the afternoon to talk about the trade show, and I thought, oh my God, I want to go home. And plus, I don't want to deal with this right now because I've got another show coming up in like 2 weeks, right? So, but luckily, I had done my calculations on the way home. I'd done my, calculations. I had figured how many leads we had and what the show cost us, and I divided that out, and I had my dollars per lead. I remember it was $78.10 per lead, which is right in our wheelhouse. We're very happy with that. So I walk in with my one little piece of paper, and I'm ready to spout that out and leave and go home. And they're like, "Yeah, well, what about? Did we have any upsells? Did you save any clients? Did you learn what happened? How many meetings did you have scheduled before that? How much did you save? Is there any other economic benefit to doing this show other than these leads you just brought back? So that's what triggered it. And I thought, man, the game has changed now. Because what would used to happen before that was I would go into a meeting and they'd kind of, how much did that show cost us? And I'd say it's $38,000. Like, how many leads do we get? I go, this many. They kind of grumble a little bit, and then we just move on, you know. But
Yeah.
when they started asking, they started, we've had enough of this. Tell us exactly what happened. Give us some numbers. I realized the game changed. So I started using those calculations then for the next 100. I messed up on the first 100. I did it right on the next 100. And then when I started in this business, when I started actually just a few years ago talking to more small business owners about return on investment for trade shows, I created I was here, my thought was I'm going to create a 1 or 2 page little information about ROI. And then it became 4 pages and then 16 and then 32. And I thought, well, I might as well. So I made a little booklet, on it. And now it's on Amazon and all that kind of stuff, but I pretty much just give them away. Uh, you know, it kind of evolved into a lot more detail.
Yeah, excellent. Well, let's talk a little bit about sort of in addition to what you do for clients, just the additional resources and knowledge you can provide for people. So, obviously, you provide an invaluable service for your clients, which is are able to take a lot of things off their plate as far as getting their exhibits set up. But just briefly, just explain what you do, some of these other ancillary ways you can help people, and then what's the best way for people to start a conversation with you or learn more about the ways you can help them improve their ROI at trade shows.
Okay. Yeah. So if somebody is interested in exhibit. They need a new trade show booth, or they just starting out and they need a brand new one, or they want to start over, clear the slate and start over, doing something different. They can just give me a call, just to call or email, and I'm sure you'll put my email address on there, at the trade group where I work now. If somebody wants to dig a little bit deeper, maybe they want to learn more about all the details of trade shows. I know so many people let's say they even have a marketing degree, but they've never been to a trade show. And they get these marketing jobs, and somebody hands them a folder and says, hey, by the way, we do 2 or 3 trade shows. And they go, oh my God, I've never been to a trade show. Or even there is an advanced designation, a CTSM designation, where you're a certified trade show professional. Yeah, both ends of the spectrum. And I've had people that have that designation, they have that advanced designation, who read the little book or went through my videos and said, "Oh my God, I learned a couple things that I'm going to implement immediately." So I do have the book. It's available on Amazon and Kindle or paperback. But I do also have a video program. I recorded a 2.5 hour video program that gets a little bit more in depth, where I can really talk through and dig deeper into some of these ways to save money, ways to get better returns from your shows, how to pre-plan, those kind of things that make a big difference in your overall trade show experience. And so that is available. Maybe you can put a link up to that video program. And I had a lot of fun putting that together, and it's pretty valuable content. I think just even parts of it can maybe double or triple their return.
Oh, I think that would be music to the ears of anybody that is spending the money that it takes to set up a trade show booth or exhibit. That's whatever they're all looking for, is to increase their ROI on that spend, and you
Yes.
help them do that. So that's really cool. Well, Tim, thanks so much for this conversation. I mean, I learned a lot. It's interesting to hear these different techniques and tricks that can help people get an immediate return on their investment, which is what they all want,
Yeah,
and just have a better experience. So, thanks so much, and I look forward to more conversations and learning more and hearing stories about what you're seeing out there at these conventions and trade shows.
my pleasure. I enjoyed it.